Hey there, I'm Ben.
Toptro Projector Review. Okay, just because I hate clickbait, let's do the whole video in one sentence. This is a fairly solid projector with a remarkably good sound for its size, but it also has some lens and focus issues and really terrible software. Do stick around if you can, however, because the software is a serious consideration in this purchase, and I want so much to share it with you. Toptro, by the way, stands for Top Quality Real Romantic Option. I just needed you to know that this was a real thing that they wrote on their website. And while we're at it, you should also know that despite being a romantic option, I had no success in fitting this projector in my butt. Imagine, however, being able to project an entire movie out of your... Anyway, we really gotta focus here. Okay, so ever since a projector became my most successful video, companies have suddenly become very interested in sending me their amazing, perfect projectors. And the lesson I'm learning here is that I need to make a really successful video about an 8-foot tall, thick as hell, polyamorous husband who loves to cook. Am I right? Get it? It's funny because I don't have a nesting partner because I have commitment issues and I'm emotionally damaged. And I would like someone to send me one for review purposes only. God, I keep getting distracted. Let's focus. Let's lock in. Fit, finish, and physicality. So, for reference, this product is very similar to the Putrims projector that I reviewed. It's also priced exactly the same, and I'm gonna make some references to that video, so you could go and watch that one next. It's linked below the like button. Okay, focus. So the materials feel slightly, maybe a little more premium, and of course, there's the impressive looking speaker setup, which I will get to. Feel free to use the chapters if you can't wait to hear about it. I am still mad that it takes 7.8 years to unscrew the little foot due to the tiny threading. I'm also mad that it just falls out if you unscrew it too far. I'm also mad that they didn't attach the lens cap to the projector with a string. Did string become expensive or something? But these are small complaints, and while we're talking about small complaints, let's talk about the remote. Okay, so I am still very much against the idea of physical remotes, but if you're going to do one in 2025, this is my wish list, and I really don't think I'm being unreasonable here. First, some kind of Find My, for my sanity, so I'm not constantly looking for the remote. Secondly, a good, long-lasting, rechargeable, and replaceable battery. Shit, even just shipping remotes with rechargeable AA's would be an improvement. A passive mic. Well, maybe not a passive mic. The privacy issues that come with that are kind of icky, but the keys should also have backlighting. Or, and I know this sounds completely insane, but put a scannable QR code on the damn machine that links to the device and let me use my phone. There are so many ways to do this. I'm just gonna rant about this a little further because remotes have existed for thousands of years. We primarily use them in the dark. If you're going to force me to use one instead of my phone, then at least have the decency to backlight it. Oh wait, you know what does have a number of high quality mics, a very good keyboard, as well as text-to-speech processing? My phone! Also, in a weird step backwards, this remote appears to be exclusively infrared instead of the Bluetooth infrared combo, so instead of some functions being rock solid, they're all dependent on line of sight. Strangely, it also doesn't want to work when I point the remote directly at the projector. Like, if I harp on it, it will eventually respond, but it's very clearly designed to be pointed at the screen. Also, as much as I love privacy and not being listened to, this remote does not have a microphone, so if you wanted to use the projector software, you're going to have to hunt and peck for every single thing that you type. Tech support. I submitted a support request on June 25th at lunchtime. I did this using my super secret private hacker email, so there's no way they could know it was me, probably. And I was really impressed that they responded the same day. I didn't get into a huge back and forth with them, but I am very happy about the fact that it's a quick turnaround. So simple, just an email address listed on the website. Now, if a teeny tiny projector company can afford to do it, why can't Lenovo? Could it be that they're understaffing their help desk to artificially inflate their profits? Never. That would never happen in corporate America. Okay, picture quality. I am a little annoyed that at this angle, I can't seem to get the focus right so that the text is sharp corner to corner. And I promise, I really tried. This hasn't been an issue for other projectors, so well, you've been warned. Probably a problem if you ever intend to use this in an office setting. Either all the text needs to be a little bit fuzzy or one corner is hella fuzzy while the other one is sharp. I tried throwing the image over a shorter distance or raising the projector parallel to the wall, but even though the latter made it a little bit better, even with manual focus adjustment, some of the text was still fuzzy. This is obviously a lot less noticeable for movies, but smart devices handle a lot of text, especially on apps like YouTube. It's not unusable, but it is annoying. Color-wise, the picture is reasonably bright and clear. For me, there were not noticeable pixels or screen door effect in the way that there was with my Pico projector video. Again, companies love to claim this to be useful in the daytime, but I think we know that that's bullshit. If you pull all the blinds or you live in a basement, maybe, but it is is nowhere near like having a TV where you can just have it on and easily seen in a well-lit room. Audio quality. This one has a Dolby sound system, so you'll forgive me if I had slightly higher expectations. The audio depends a lot on the file that you're using. I played a legally acquired copy of the movie Prospect, and it was quiet enough that I needed subtitles. What I noticed, however, is that most of the videos on YouTube that I've tried are very much loud enough for general use. Keeping in mind, of course, that this is not a theatrical sound system, especially if you wanted to set it up permanently. But as a high-quality stopgap for portable situations, I'd say this is either as good as or nearly as good as the Samsung Freestyle. For another point of comparison, it's loud enough that I would worry about bothering my neighbors with gunfire late at night. Regarding use with Bluetooth, generally speaking, it's actually quite good. It does do that thing where it'll automatically connect to the last Bluetooth device, which if you're using headphones might be a bit of an issue. If you have a soundbar, it's kind of a great feature. Then there's the volume slider. For whatever reason, they've opted to make it so turning up the volume halfway is actually about 90%. I think this is in the hopes that you won't notice that the Dolby sound system is a little bit weak. Ultimately, it can get pretty loud, especially for a projector like this, but I don't know if it really is worth a Dolby logo. Given that they aren't charging more than the competitor that doesn't have this, it feels like a pretty good deal until you get to the software. Lastly, fan noise. Obviously, no projector review is complete without this, and I would say the fan noise was pretty average. Think a mid-sized PC. It's not really irritating or all that noticeable, and if you're playing audio directly from the device or you're using a soundbar, you definitely will not notice it. Next, software, which brings us to my most hated feature, which is that this projector has no access to any mainstream app store. The software for this device feels more finished than other projectors that I've reviewed, but I'll be honest, it's more finished because it's more terrible. Thankfully, they have the well-known and beloved NetRange App Store. Just kidding, I've never heard of that app store. It looks like some kind of nerfed version of the Android store, and maybe it's just me, but it seems to be filled with bloatware streaming apps that I've also never heard of, such as Tiki Live, the cable alternative. That said, I do love that it runs Plex well, and that Plex comes pre-installed. Also pre-installed are Netflix and Prime Video, you know, the one where they added ads to the tier you were already paying for and then made you pay more to have no ads. Getting back to the bad software stuff, however, there are a ton of apps that you just can't download. A few that I checked are Hulu, Paramount Plus, Apple TV, Disney Plus, Crunchyroll. And for capitalism is terrible reasons, I could see one or two of these getting chucked, but there's no world in which Netflix competes with Crunchyroll's catalog. I also just want to point out that it doesn't have Google TV, which, Google be damned, is a pretty useful thing to have, if only for the sake of its app store. Frankly, the apps and channels on the NetRange App Store feel like the kind of options you'd get in a hookup motel in Alabama with no internet service. Oh, one last shitty, terrible thing. So, without Disney and Hulu, they bootlegged access to letting you log in via the browser, and we all know how wonderful TV browsers are. Not only are the remote and browser insanely laggy, for some reason the back button just stopped working while I was trying to log in via Disney Plus, so good luck navigating Disney or Hulu on this thing without a back button. Also, while we're talking about the browser that is somehow worse than Internet Explorer, I'd just like you to know that it has unmuted ads that just play in the sidebar. Just when you thought it couldn't get worse, late-stage capitalism really swoops in and brings a fresh new hell. Oh, two more things. One to love, one to hate. The remote has an orientation button. I like that it has this button for quickly changing the orientation of the image. It makes using it in unique environments very quick and easy. Irritatingly, however, the quick settings button on the remote does not allow you to change the audio output. Speaking of output, let's talk about casting. Honestly, if you have an Android phone, this could be the saving grace for this device. I'm honestly really happy with how easy screencasting on an Android phone was. I didn't need to download an app or fiddle with it. I just pushed two buttons and the projector showed up immediately. That said, the quality was kind of lacking. It did take a second to connect, but having easy access to connect a phone diminishes a lot of the pain you feel with the shitty software on this device, especially all the hunt and peck given the remote has no mic. What's really frustrating to me, however, is that the X9 won't show up unless you open the screen sharing on the projector, which means you can't just pick up your phone and turn on the device by initiating casting, something which is easy to do with most modern smart TVs. You also can't share your screen from iPhone, which means short of buying an Apple TV and plugging it into the back, you can't watch anything from Apple TV. Yes, I know this is partly Apple's fault for being awful. Lastly, casting from Android and iPhone doesn't always work. For example, YouTube works fine on an iPhone, but Plex and Tubi don't. On an Android, doing a screen share is easy, but the picture and audio quality for a casted YouTube video is terrible. Not the end of the world, however, because you can cast natively from the YouTube app. Kind of annoying that you'd have to do that because it would be nice to live in a world where you can just cast from your phone and use that for everything. Something I do like, however, is that screencasting on Android integrates volume control, so you don't need to scramble for the remote when you're casting to your screen and you want to adjust volume. If you choose to cast directly from YouTube, you're back to using your remote. I just want to stress that the only way to make the software on this device bearable is to cast from your device. And again, outside of YouTube and Netflix, this isn't really doable for iPhone users. Lastly, ethics and environment. So, rather than needlessly repeat myself, I'm just going to say that Toptro gets a Shell oil ranking. That is, by the way, the lowest possible ranking. If you want to know more about what that means, I've got info on the screen, but ultimately we can assume that this company is just about as bad as it gets for pollution and exploitation. If they wanted us to think otherwise, they would need to prove it. Moving on, privacy and security. So, the privacy policy is basically just that they want to collect a bunch of marketing data.
Oh, tell some please. Look.
What I don't like is that I can find no explicit acknowledgement of the built-in camera or of their use of it. Given how smarmy today's companies are, I would in no way put it past them to say, well, we didn't say we weren't going to use the camera to spy on you. Again, it's creepy the way these companies in the manual don't even acknowledge that it's a camera. To Toptro's credit, however, you should know that you can opt out of this. No, it's not as easy as it should be, but the option is there for selection if you scroll through all the bullshit. Again, given that this company is just one of hundreds selling what is essentially a drop-ship white label product, I would wait a few years before trusting them with this kind of information. Summary. As with a lot of products, I really wish I could fuse the best of both worlds into one. I wish I could have the great audio from this projector to the easier focus and picture clarity of the Putrims projector that I reviewed. Because audio is the standout feature for this projector. Unfortunately, I cannot find a way to get it to project text without some blur, and that's very irritating. Probably something I would eventually tune out if I used it a lot, but again, it's irritating. It should just work. Ultimately, the projector is a fairly serviceable device with great audio. The software isn't great, and frankly, casting or screen sharing is your best bet here. All that said, it has some mid-level imperfections, but it's usable. Obviously, I do have some concerns around the way this company may conduct itself environmentally or with its workers, because there is no transparency, but ultimately the product is the product. It's okay. As always, thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. I'm Ben, this is BRBTG, and as always, I will be right back.